Well, as vote counting continues in Zimbabwe, credibility issues continue to be watched with a close eye. International observers have been crisscrossing the country to check if there was any vote rigging, basically, in yesterday's elections. Now, Zimbabwe's Electoral Commission has reported a 75% turnout and expects to release the results on Saturday. For more analysis on the Zimbabwean elections, we're joined in studio by Izak Khomo. Mr. Khomo, thank you very much indeed for your time. Firstly, your impressions of yesterday. Relatively peaceful, isn't it?
Yeah, relatively peaceful, and also very important in the sense that it's actually going to usher in a regime or a government which is going to have credibility and legitimacy to actually act to solve the big problem of Zimbabwe.
Either way, you reckon? Because, I mean, the two front runners are now Emmerson Mnangagwa as well as Nelson Chamisa. Either way, do you see it?
Exactly, it's just got to be either way, because basically they need stability and they need peace. And the only way you can get stability and peace and legitimacy is to get a government which is acceptable to the people, for the people, by the people.
But what needs to happen, Mr. Khomo, in terms of reforms in Zimbabwe in order for Zimbabwe to reach that so-called utopian state?
Well, the reforms are there. The reforms needed are there. I mean, to say, it should be remembered that in the former government, the government of national unity of 2008, they had talks to actually reform the constitution, and they came up with the global political agreement. And that went to a referendum, it was passed, it went to parliament, it was passed, but then it was never implemented. There are 25 articles there, and those articles have got to be implemented. And once those are implemented, people are actually going to get a legitimate, very peaceful, and in fact, the governance space will actually be cleared. Yeah.
So policy certainty and political stability are key, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
In terms of another figure that has emerged, been on our screens over the past couple of days, the former president, Robert Mugabe, does he still hold sway in Zimbabwe?
Well, to some people, yes, and I think he does. But I mean, to say that, well, to answer your question, I think he does not hold sway, but it's just a sentimental issue because, Zimbabweans are a pragmatic lot of people. They're unlike South Africans and many Africans, they're not moved by sentiment. Yeah, they're very pragmatic, and what moves them is the balance sheet. Yeah. So even with President Mugabe coming there, talking like a spoiled kid, really, yeah, those Zimbabweans will listen to him, but then from there they'll weigh where their odds are, and they'll continue with life. Those are Zimbabweans. The
visuals we were watching yesterday, I mean, when he was voting there, we saw a lot of cheering for him. What do you make of that? Does he still have political capital?
We are Africans. As Africans, we respect the old. In fact, as an old man, you can actually do whatever, you can misbehave. But people still cheer you and they'll still give you the respect that's due to you. That's unfortunate, that's the truth about Africans.
A lot of Zimbabweans like him as a person. And a lot of never forget that he was seen as a liberation hero, isn't it? I mean, those voters that liked him, Robert Mugabe, where do you think their votes are gone?
There's something you cannot take away from Mugabe. You'll never, ever take away the land reform, the accelerated land reform from Mugabe. Now, that's the thing that people don't understand. I mean, the people who got the land, basically, they treasure it, and that is a victory. Yeah, Mamdani said it, yeah? And despite what Mugabe did, what he did with the land reform is something that nobody can take away from him. So basically, with all other misgovernance and all other misdemeanors, that element he has got, and it will never sort of go away from him.
He did pronounce that he wouldn't be voting for those who tormented him. At the age of 94, do you foresee any political comeback?
No, there's no political comeback. That's why I said he's behaving like a spoiled kid, He's just angry, he's just sort of sulking, that's all, Right? You take it with a pinch of salt, these are old folks. When they complain, you listen to them. You don't argue with them, you just accommodate them, you take them within a stride. That's...
Nelson Chamisa says, who is he to distance himself from a so-called endorsement from Robert Mugabe? It wasn't an exact endorsement, but, seemingly, if you want to use that word.
Exactly. Says that if he's going to give me his vote, I'm going to take it.
Yes, exactly.
Why should I fight it? Why should I sort of shun it, Yeah.
Many are saying it's a two-horse race, Emerson Mnangagwa, Nelson Chamisa. Tell us about these two. Obviously, there's an age factor here.
Yeah.
One is 75, one is 40.
Yeah.
But in terms of what they bring to the table, is it fundamentally different?
You see, I've got my reservations about Chamisa. You know, the trouble with Chamisa is this, that Chamisa basically, or the MDC, they have not come up with any policy alternative. Yeah, they've not come up to any sort of policy alternative to what they're actually going to put. They've not put anything on the table. They actually sort of come up on a ticket of the misdemeanors of the ruling party. Yeah, but whereas if you look at Mnangagwa, I mean to say, although that he's sort of representing the old regime, which is muddied, but he has done a lot of footwork with possible investors. You know, he has talked a lot with the British. He's been talking to the British from 2016, yeah, and on the way forward and how to bring back the British investment. It's so surprising that the Commonwealth Observer Mission is in Zimbabwe. Yeah, they're there actually to endorse and to actually sort of give credibility to whatever happens there. And everybody's hoping, I'm talking about not the investors, not me, that Mnangagwa gets on, so they could get on with the talks that have been started from the time of the removal of President Mugabe.
But the sense that you're getting on the ground and the sentiment from the electorate, do you think that they want maybe a fresh start and willing to risk it with Nelson Chamisa?
Well, you see now, there's two issues about Zimbabwe. There are two constituencies basically. That there's only one constituency that has been actually aired on the mainstream media. You know, you've got an urban constituency and the rural constituency. And demographically, the rural constituency is bigger. Now, what we see with the support for Chamisa and most of the visuals that we see, footage that we see on television, basically those come from the urban sector. And that's where the MDC is very popular and Chamisa is very popular. But we do not know much about the rural constituency. Of course, he does have a support there. But how far is his support? Now, people should understand that this year, the Zimbabwean tobacco crop has hit a record. They got about over 200 million kilograms of tobacco. That has beaten all records, even under the old sort of settler tobacco growing system. Yeah, they've actually surpassed that. And the majority of the people who have actually sort of produced that tobacco is about 100,000 are the small growers. Now those people are actually getting money in their pocket, and if you listen to them, they're very happy about what's happened. And they're getting that despite there being a midterm drought in the country. So now those people basically with the setup, they are quite satisfied with the setup, although they're not happy. And I can't see them actually sort of casting out the ZANU-PF for Chamisa over issues of the economy. Now, basically, they've got something now, but nothing much has been said about that. I mean, I wish that the mainstream media had covered that constituency so that we know exactly what the politics of the country is all about.
Mr. Khomo, I'm going to tap your brain a little further, but we need to take a bit of a break, so stand by, stick around with us. Izak Khomo is an analyst for today. We're going to take a bit of a break. We'll be back with more news. Stay with us.